Okay, welcome everyone. This will be our first Zoom Q&A for the New Jersey International Film Festival, which will be taking place online. Yes, online. We were supposed to do the International Film Festival, which is the 26th annual on the campus of Rutgers University, where we're based, between June 4th and June 13th on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. But because of COVID, we're forced to go virtual again. And luckily for our other festivals, we were able to do this, and we use the Ventive as our streaming provider. They do an excellent job. You know, they work with some of the major distributors of films like A24 and Magnolia, just to name a few, as well as a ton of other film festivals. And we had no technical issues, so we're really proud to be working with them again. So today, we have two very special guests, as well as one of the jurors that were part of the film festival, to talk about their wonderful feature film called Bone Cage. We have Taylor Olson here. He's the director, the writer, and the lead in the film, as well as Melani Wood. She's the producer of the film, and they hail from Canada. And you know, I didn't tell these guys this, but I used to live in Halifax way back in the early 60s when I was just a toddler. My parents moved from the US to Canada for a while. So I do have a connection to you guys indirectly with my Nova Scotian roots showing right live. So welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So before we jump into the Q&A, folks, if you'd like to see these films or any of the other programs, there's 9 programs that include 25 films that we selected from over 550 films that we got from around the world. So we're showing the creme de la creme, the 25 best films, and Bone Cage was one of 3 features we selected. So we're not Sundance or any of the larger film festivals in that respect, because they get thousands of entries. But we show about the same amount of percentage. I mean, we only show 4% of what we get. So we have our wonderful website, which is behind me, New Jersey Film Fest, njfilmfest.com. You click on where it says Summer 2021 Schedule, and then you'll click on another link that will send you to our Eventive homepage, and you can see Bone Cage, which is playing with another short animated film, which is part of our festival opener, and that's a really very important position in our schedule lineup. So anyway, welcome everyone. Taylor, tell us how you got involved in making this film. A very rudimentary question for you.
Well, thanks for having us. It's based on a great play by Catherine Banks, who's a Nova Scotian playwright. And I read the play when I was in university and fell in love with it. And then luckily in 2017, I got to do a stage version with Matchstick Theater here in Cheapooka, Halifax. And it was a second day rehearsal that I thought, I think this would make a beautiful film because of the imagery. My family's worked in the logging industry for many generations. And so it felt really personal. And that's where it started, was with Catherine's play. And luckily she let us adapt it and make it.
That's awesome, because I was going to ask, that was one of my questions. I think I read that you were involved in the logging industry. And so you were very familiar with using a lot of the machines that you see here, correct?
Yeah, in the film when we shot it, we didn't have time for me to personally reacquaint myself and use them. But yeah, my family's been working in the logging industry for the last 4 generations, so it's pretty close to us. Yeah.
So but the process took how long, Melanie? How long did it take you to put the funding together? I mean, people say $100,000 is a micro budget, but to me that's a fortune. So I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, it's just enough money to get yourself in trouble, I suppose. It's we were very fortunate to be funded through Telefilm Canada's Talent to Watch program, which is a fantastic program offered here in Canada for directors who are looking to make their first feature. And they provide us with $125,000 to make a feature. Plus, we're very fortunate to live in Nova Scotia, where we're supported by a tax incentive as well. So the funding was actually, I'll never say this again, but that part was the easy part. And then it was taking, this beautiful script and doing it justice, which was hard. I think the script, it doesn't necessarily lend itself to a micro budget. There's a huge cast. There's a bunch of different locations. We're out, in these clear cuts. So it was juggling all of that, but we were lucky to have a great team, and we put it together. I think, hope we did it justice.
Yes, a masterful job, masterful job. Hamsa, go ahead. Please, I don't want to hog all the questions.
I'd love to know how your partnership as producer and director began, and like, was there an awkward stage at the beginning before you really got the flow of working together on this project?
I don't think so.
No, I mean,
Did you guys know each other beforehand, and that's how you started working with each other?
We knew of each other, I think, in the industry, and Taylor I think you had just done a short maybe with my partner, who's a cinematographer and who was a cinematographer on this project, Kevin. So it was really Taylor and Kevin started talking about and workshopping this feature. And they were just constantly sitting in my kitchen talking about it when when they were like, hey, we need a producer. And I was like, well, you guys are here all the time anyway, so I guess I might as well. And then for me as a producer, there was not really any awkward phase. Taylor is one of the hardest working people that I've ever met. So there was no kind of like, you're the producer, so you do this, and I'm the director, so I do this. It was very much a team effort of like, here's what needs to be done, and we'll delegate and conquer, which I think worked really well. It was kind of a dream.
Yeah, it's funny because, the team is like a family, and your film is about dysfunctional families. So
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what you actually see on the screen. But I thought, Kevin Fisher did a really great job. I mean, his handheld camera work, you're right in there when you're kissing Krista, you're right there. It's as if you're kissing her too, and I think one of the fortes of the film is not only the great writing but the acting is just awesome. I think the four leads, which I hope you guys talk about. I wrote down their names because I wanted to mention them. Ursula Calder plays Krista, who is your wife-to-be. Amy Groening plays your sister Chicky. And then Sam Vigneault plays Kevin, who's your friend. Tell us about the process, how you guys got these guys on board and what it was like working with them.
The community here in Mi'kmaq is really small. So the film community is nice and small. So you kind of slowly over a number of years get to know everyone, hopefully. And then of course there's people that surprise you. And so Sam and I actually worked on the play. Sam would play Kevin. We did those same roles in the play. And so that was a really easy transfer coming. And also we're great friends. So it was really easy to transfer over to the film. And then Amy Groening and I had worked on a film called Hopeless Romantic together. And through that, a very different relationship in that film. But through that, I just knew that she was a fantastic actor and wanted to work with her. And then Ursula, Krista's a tough role to cast. And you need someone who's innately innocent, has that innocence about them in real life. But it's a very hard thing to put on as an actor. And so I auditioned folks from Dalhousie University, the theater program that I went through. And right away, her tape was just fantastic. So we met and started working together. And that was her first film, and that was Sam's, really Sam's maybe second film. Yeah.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
They seem like veterans to me. I mean, they really, and the thing about, and I don't mean to hog all the questions, Sam, so please, you take the next one. But before you do that, the thing that I found, while it seems at times, I know that it came from a play, but I didn't feel like it was done that way. Perhaps it's because of the open spaces that you had. Even though it's all about these people being boxed in, right, in their situations and trying to get out, much like the falcon, I guess, that we see in the film, right, which obviously serves as a parable or as a metaphor for the situation. But the situation is much different because of the way that you filmed it, because of the open spaces. Was that consciously done as well?
Yeah, Kevin and I, like you said, Kevin's such a great DOP, and too, like, this kind of comes from like many relationships in the film, but especially us, and then Mel being an amazing producer. Like Mel's so good at getting people and places and things happening when you have no money like this, right? So part of the process was that we wanted it to feel like Jamie was boxed in and to not allow for any tension. And we talked about there's different ways you can do that with aspect ratios or this and that. And what we landed in was to have the camera very close on wide lenses, so you felt you're sort of immersed in it, close with the characters and sort of intimate, but where you get these giant landscapes. It's like they're stuck in a claustrophobic world. However, they're surrounded just by, the vast landscape that they're in. That was kind of the idea that we're after. And, in terms of adapting it, the one hard thing was going from, 15 scenes in a play to, 107 or whatever we had. So that process wasn't easy. It was a lot of fun though. And I was really grateful to have Catherine as my story editor, coming from the play. Like, she was very hands-on and directly involved.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we did, that we made a priority, which you can't always when you don't have a lot of money, is rehearsing. We kind of took a full week before we went to camera in our location, in our main house location, with our family, and the camera up, just to rehearse those handheld moves. And so they got used to having Kevin right in their face all the time, but also so all the cast got to be able to kind of work closely together and really go through that. So when we got there on the day, it's almost like we had been there before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Hamsa.
So, Melanie, at what point, or what really made you think that this project was special and got you really excited to work on it?
For me, I knew very little about the project before actually getting on board. What kind of had me hooked was Taylor's passion for it, which I think you can kind of tell when you talk to him is like quite contagious. So there was a lot of excitement and passion there. I think that the visual imagery was really exciting. I generally come from a world of doing documentary, so this was kind of a new adventure for me, getting into the feature world. And, for me, it was all about the person coming to me with the project more so than the project itself. I kind of felt like safe in Taylor's capable hands to be able to kind of learn and grow as a producer with him and the team that we formed. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And then getting into it and kind of becoming attached to all the characters and the story, that part was really cool. There's a lot of Nova Scotian storytelling and artists in this, which is exciting for me as well. So yeah, there's, a whole bunch of different elements that made me excited about the project.
There's definitely a documentary feel though to the
film.
I mean, not only documentary, but environmental documentary, because of the, Taylor even mentions as Jamie, his character, talks about to Ursula, she said, why are we going to BC? We won't tell too much of the story so that viewers can jump in, but basically she thinks that there's an abundance of trees in the space, in the area. But in fact, that's not the case. Was that something also that was in the original play, or is that something that you adapted to the screen or added to the screen version? That was
in the original play, and there's this great line, I don't want to say it because it will give it away too. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But just the idea that you're working yourself out of a job, and I've heard my dad say that in the past, when he he's not working in the logging industry anymore and hasn't for a number of years, but when he was younger and we were kids, he would talk about the idea of working himself out of a job in 10 years sort of thing. And so that always really stuck with me. Yeah.
And for speaking back to the documentary element, I mean, I know Taylor kind of comes from this world a little bit, but there was so much learning to be done on our parts as kind of responsible filmmakers as well, and finding and aligning ourselves with people in the logging industry in Nova Scotia who were, working on sustainable logging and who were able to explain to us what is accurate and what we can show and what we shouldn't, and how they work in their practices, which was also fascinating as well, and kind of a bonus that I wasn't really expecting to come away with, but it was very interesting.
Hamsa, do you have another question?
I'd love to know if, Taylor, you had any, when you were writing the script, if you got attached to any other character and you were like, oh, maybe I want to play this person other than Jamie, or was it always Jamie for you?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it was always Jamie for me because I'd done the play. Even when I was in university and I read the play, to me, it was always Jamie. And then luckily that's what I got to do on stage. But I kind of love them all. Like, as I think all writers do this probably, is they just put these little pieces of themselves into each role, and so there's all these aspects of them that you sort of fall in love with, and then you're sad to see them go. Like, it was kind of hard after we finished shooting to let go of them, and it took me a while to consciously let go of Jamie, especially. I kind of held on to him for a while and hadn't recognized it until I was still behaving in some ways like small mannerisms, and I was like, oh, I gotta get rid of that, because you fall in love with them. Yeah.
I mean, you have to live the character, and you
Yeah.
live the character for how long did it take? Well, one thing that we haven't done, and we're kind of backing into it, maybe give a kind of, not the tagline, but a summary of the film, so that our viewers know what we're talking about. Maybe we should have done that 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, for sure. It's about a young guy who works in a tree processor, clear cutting for pulp all day, and then he goes into the destruction and finds injured animals and tries to rescue them. And I think what it's really about is how toxic ideals of manhood go hand in hand with destruction of the earth and the effects of that.
Yeah, and I think the relationships show that the environment itself where they are living, and we see this, one of these animals that you saved is not eating, and I mean, that was a trained falcon? Is that what it was?
It's a red-tailed hawk.
Oh, it is the hawk. Okay.
Which is native to Nova Scotia. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And that was oh gosh, I don't want to forget. Oh, John Allen.
John Allen. Yeah.
Yeah. He trains all sorts of birds like this, and it's amazing to watch. Like, they're just beautiful creatures. Yeah.
Yeah. His name was Zeus. He was great.
Zeus. All right.
Yeah.
Huge animal lovers here. So
Yeah.
yeah, we have red-tailed hawks flying around. In fact, a Cooper hawk just ended up, I guess he hit my window and he died right outside my window. I feel so bad because they mate around here. They also feed on the squirrels and the other animals that are around. But was Zeus, did he comply with, or was he chained down like when, well, I won't tell audience what happens, but he's mostly in a cage. But when he's out, does he follow instructions and stuff like that from his trainer?
I think he was on a lead most of the time. I mean, it's definitely is more dramatic in the film than in reality. And he stuck, on John's arm any minute that he wasn't in front of the camera. But he is also on a lead as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hamsa, jump in, girl.
So one thing I do want to ask, because I'm not familiar with the play myself, so I've never actually read it, but I'd love to know, for you, what was the most impactful part of the play that really caught your attention and you were like, this is like really hit you hard about the play?
There's probably two things that I could probably say, and the first one is one that we actually already highlighted, was the idea that Jamie's working himself out of a job. That really stuck with me. But then also there's this beautiful monologue that Catherine wrote at the end of the play that I spent so much time trying to figure out how I could keep intact for the film, and it just never worked. It would just never translate properly. At the end of the play, that's sort of, it was one of my favorite monologues I've ever read, and it really summarizes the idea of the bittersweetness of someone who knows what they've become over time, how hard they've become, who knows it and wishes that it wasn't true, or wishes that maybe, with Krista's love, he could change. Maybe with this, he could change. And I think that was the most impactful thing about the play, was tackling that perspective, because it's not something I'd ever seen before, was seeing someone who knows how hard they've become and wishes it was different, but doesn't know how to change it themselves in their circumstance. The idea, there's this idea that I like to carry around with every project, is that everyone's always doing the best they can with what they have. And I think that's oddly true of all of these characters. They're doing the best that they can with what they have, and their behavior might sometimes feel paradoxical to what they want. But when you're sort of stuck in these situations, there's no way out sometimes. Yeah.
They're looking to anchor themselves to each other to try to maintain some kind of stability, whether it be the relationship between Jamie and Kevin or the relationship between Jamie and Krista. I mean, she seems to be really latching on to Jamie. Jamie kind of needs that anchor, but also desires a release. So I think, you know, and Chicky too. She's in a tight situation, in a no-win situation. Right?
Yeah. One of the things that was really lovely to get to add to the film from that wasn't necessarily in the play, but was hinted at just because you get to add more scenes and locations, was this idea of adding Krista's mom into the film, or building the idea that these two young people are repeating the cycle to escape their own parents. So they're going to do what their parents did in an attempt to escape them, you know, that sort of paradox.
Yeah. Very cool. Hamsa, one more question and we'll wrap up our Q&A.
So I would just love to know what else, like what have we not asked you that you would love the audience to kind of know going into the film? Like what would you love to share with the audience?
I don't know, Mel, do you have anything? I don't know.
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I hope that the film, you know, we're just beginning to screen in the US. So I hope that the film is able to kind of show a bit of a different lifestyle and world that is very true to some who live kind of in smaller rural communities, like here in Canada, and I'm sure people can relate all over the world as well. So I think that like watching it with an open mind with that, and yeah, I guess I can only hope people kind of fall in love with the characters like we have. You know, a lot of passion went into this project. We made this film with very few crew members over, you know, the span of a month. So a lot of heart, a lot of labor and passion went into it. So yeah, I guess we're just really excited to be sharing it with your festival and your audience. And also, you know, if anyone does have any questions, you can find Taylor and I online, and we'd love to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we champion films that are about human beings dealing with situations, and there's so many parallels to the situation in the U.S. You know, with whether it be in rural communities and feeling left out and abandoned, and I mean that's something that's very, very prominently on display in this country, and I think that your film addresses many of those and the challenges to trying to find you know, your own path in life. I think that's what we really loved about your film. Well, I want to thank you both for being part of this Q&A, and I want to just kind of take this opportunity to share screen. And let's see how I'm going to do this. All right, I'm going to go here and hit share screen so I can show people how they can get to our site, which I haven't been doing until recently, but this is our website, which is njfilmfest.com. And normally everything would be here, but because we're doing it virtually, you've got to go through a couple of machinations. You would click New Jersey International Film Festival and it would bring you to this page. And when you get to this page, you would click on this link, which will take you to our Eventive virtual site. And you can see as it comes in that you can click, well, we don't want that one, we want this one, where we have First Light and Bone Cage, and you can pre-order tickets, and it gives you all the information, who plays in the film, and, you know, there's some teaser videos that are being added every day. And so this film is our opening film program, and again, it's going to start on June 4th. And the way that our screenings on Eventive work, that the film will be available on June 4th, starting at 1 minute after midnight on that day. So if you start watching it, then you have 24 hours to finish watching it. Let's say you're a late night person, you don't want to watch it till Friday night, you can do that. You can start watching it at 11:45, and you still will have 24 hours to complete it. So that's the way we've set up this festival. It seems to work. And that's how you can go and buy tickets and stuff like that. So I'm going to stop sharing screen. And I want to say thanks again to both Melanie and to Taylor for being here, and Hamsa too. and hope to see everybody at the screening. So I want to sign off. You guys stay on after I hit the pause record button, which I'm doing now. Thanks, everyone.